You meant to hurt me, but God turned your evil into good. It was to save the lives of many, and it is being done. This comes from Genesis 50:20. I was just sitting here tonight, and I'm going to be honest with you, I am sleepy, I am tired, I'm in my sweats, and I've just been watching ABC Family, just chilling out and listening to a little prophetic music in the background and just thinking about how good God is, honestly. It's been a really good day. It's a good season. It's a good day to have a good day. And I got up and I was talking to my kids and we were laughing, and I got back in the bed and I can't stop singing a song I hadn't heard in so many years. And you may be too young to remember this song, but maybe you're not. And it says, some of God's greatest gifts are unanswered. Some of God's greatest gifts are all too often unanswered. Some of God's greatest gifts are unanswered prayers. And then the Lord led me to Genesis 50:20. Well, Genesis 50:20 is a story about Joseph the dreamer. Joseph was a dreamer. Joseph had the ability to both dream and interpret. Now, Joseph's brothers were very, very jealous of him because his father favored him greatly. They blamed this coat of many colors. You might liken that today to say you send some of your kids to the dollar store to buy all their clothes for the year. And you send one child into this very expensive store. Let's just say they got red bottom shoes and all your other kids are going to pay less. And that's what they thought anyway. But what they didn't realize is that Joseph wasn't favored for something as simple as something exterior. Joseph was favored because, one, he loved the Lord. Two, God had greatly gifted him with something. And three, Joseph wasn't like them. They had a bad heart. You can have a bad day and you can have a bad heart. Joseph had a lot of bad days, but he never had a bad heart. Joseph's heart was just a tier above the rest. So they decide that they are going to concoct a plan. They are going to go out and kill an animal, and they do. They take this coat from Joseph and they roll this coat around in blood, which is essentially witchcraft, because back in these days you sacrificed animals as an atonement for sin, and we don't have to do that anymore because of the blood of Christ, because of the blood of the Lamb. But back in those days they were essentially in idolatry, rolling this coat around, almost like worshiping this coat, and also doing some really creepy occult stuff with it. They take it back and they say, look, Joseph's dead. Joseph was very alive. They decide they're going to throw him in a well. But when that doesn't kill him, they realize that the anointing always rises to the top. And if we can't kill this dude in a well, then we probably need to be afraid of God and also of our daddy finding out. And they were, so the first chance they get, instead of killing him, they think it'll be easier on them in the long run if they just sell him into slavery, because at least then God can't say that they killed him. But they were murderers in their heart because they had intended to. And if you intend it, you're already there. Now, here's what I love about Joseph, is the Bible never tells us that he begs and pleads with God to fix it. The Bible never tells us that Joseph is constantly on his knees about God fixing this. I'm sure he's called out to him. That's very true. But he's not in a state like David was, where it's, oh Lord, my God. Oh Lord, please help me. Oh God, oh God. He was very much just in and about his business. And wherever he was content to be there, even on the bad days. So when they lock him up after slavery, there is this woman that comes along, and she's the wife of a high-ranking dude. And she thinks he's very handsome, and the anointing is attractive. Don't let anybody ever tell you it's not, but it'll also bring out the worst jealousy you'll ever see in anybody. It's heinous, it's hateful. The way that good people will think that, wow, there's just something about you. Bad people think there's just something about you. And that's always going to be true. So this woman tells Joseph if he won't sleep with her, that she's just going to tell everybody that he did it anyway, and then he'll be in trouble, if you get my drift. Well, he refuses, and she tells everyone that he assaulted her. But that wasn't true. So now he's in prison. He's not just a slave. He's got all these titles over his head. He was once just Joseph the dreamer. Now he's Joseph the slave, Joseph the dreamer, Joseph the prisoner, Joseph the assaulter, Joseph the rapist. He's all of these things, but he's actually not any of them. Well, there comes a day when the king has a dream, and he sends for the magicians. He sends for all these people in the occult to tell him what in the world this dream means, and they all get it wrong. And he says, what about that kid? What about that kid in the dungeon? What about him? What about Joseph? Well, Joseph moves from the pit to the palace that day because Joseph gets it right, and character don't lie. A lie is quick. People can lie on you so fast, but the truth is slow, and trust and believe what is done in the dark will be brought to the light. If you're hateful on the inside, you will be seen as hateful on the outside. There will never be anything in you that can be beautiful on the outside if you were ugly at heart. Joseph was proof of that. So his brothers come up because they need something, and Joseph has now been moved into power. Well, he wants to see if their hearts have changed, and they wouldn't recognize Joseph after all these years. So he does this thing. He slips something in one of their backpacks of the brothers because the little brother actually loved Joseph very much. The other two were yucky people. So he takes something, says it's been taken, slips it in the little brother's backpack to see if they'll sell out their little brother too. And he knows that that would mean that this little guy is either hurt or becomes a slave. And that wasn't going to happen because Joseph was in charge anyway. He just wants to test their heart. And when they find the taken item amongst the little brother, the brothers actually say, no, we did it. It was us. And Joseph sees that their heart has, after all, changed, even though he didn't know if that was possible. And he begins to cry when he sees them because Joseph still loved them. Because no matter how bad people are to you, if you have a good heart, you'll always have a soft spot for even the people who did you the dirtiest. Joseph reveals himself and the unanswered prayers we probably didn't know about. I'm sure that if you could have recorded every thought of every character in the Bible, there would have been times they were on their knees saying, God, I just want you to change it. I just want to go back to where my dad is. I just want to go back home. God, I don't know why this happened. I thought they loved me. God, I don't care about the code. I don't care about any of it. I just want to go back home. But that wasn't in the best interest of Joseph. It might not seem to make much sense, but later on it did. And instead of doing what he could have did, he could have sent these men to the gallows if he wanted to. This is who Joseph was at this time. Joseph was still the dreamer. Joseph was still anointed because you can't drown the anointing, can't kill it. You can't silence it. You can't throw it in the dungeon. It's going to shine from every corner of everywhere, and everybody will recognize it at the right time, the appointed time. God is so good. You can't shake the God off of somebody. You can't kick the God out of somebody. You can't lie the God off of somebody. And Joseph looks and he reveals himself to his brothers, and they're terrified. They fall on their knees in front of him. And this is the first dream that they had really got so upset about, is they had a dream. Joseph had a dream that everyone was bowed before him. He was just saying it like a brother, like, you'll never guess what I dreamed. Well, this set off every jealousy bell, because how dare Joseph had a dream that people bowed before him. But here they are, bow before Joe, all sorry because they're afraid they're going to go to the gallows. And Joe says, well, what you intended to hurt me for, God intended for good, is save many lives. And they didn't know it was about to save theirs too. And he said, for the rest of my life, I'll take care of you and yours. And that's the end of the story. Some of God's greatest gifts are unanswered. I don't know where you are or what's going on in your life, but if you could learn anything from Joe, I would tell you that they can't take your anointing. They can't take your God. They can't take what's good about you, only if you let them. Be a Joseph, be a dreamer, and know that it don't matter what comes your way. If the Lord is on your side, you already won in the first place.